welcome to It Happened in Grand Prairie, and we're bringing you our history tape number 58 on this December the 28th, 1987, our last taping for the new year. And we have with us today the Walton family, not the one that's on television generally, but the one that's going to be on television for our history show. And we'd like to welcome Bill Walton. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you.
And Catherine Walton Martin.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And Seth Walton Jr. We're just so glad to have you all with us, people who were very important to Grand Prairie in the historical past, but that have moved away with one exception, and Bill has decided to be in Grand Prairie with us for many more years to come. And Bill, we're glad you didn't leave us and go to Marshall or to other areas of Texas like some of the members of your family. Now we're going to start with you, Mr. Bill. Would you look out into your camera, and we'd like for you to tell us about your parents. Give us their names, including your mother's maiden name. Would you do that?
My father's name was Seth Rowe Walton Sr. My mother's name was Vida Ethel Walton Neal.
All right. And Neal was her maiden name?
Neal was her maiden name.
Is that N-E-A-L?
N-E-A-L.
Okay. All right. And your parents, when did they move to Grand Prairie, Texas?
1925, I believe it was.
In about 1925. Where did they come from, Bill?
They moved from Van Zandt County.
From Van Zandt?
Edgewood and Wills Point.
Yes, down in the wonderful East Texas area. All right. And where were you born, Bill?
I was born just south of Wills Point, about 1 mile, on the Harris farm.
On the Harris farm. Can you give us that magic date that you were born?
January the 7th, 1914.
And you're going to be celebrating a birthday real soon, right?
Sure.
Oh.
74 years old coming January 7th, and I'm thankful.
All right. And moving to Grand Prairie in about 1925, did you attend the public schools here?
Sure did.
All right. We're going to save that for just a few minutes. Let's get the genealogy of your sister and your brother that are with us today so that we can get that all squared away, and then we're going to come back and talk with you about going to school and living in Grand Prairie in your early years. Okay. Catherine, and they lovingly call you Kay now, but everyone in Grand Prairie, Texas remembers you as Catherine Walton. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live now? We know about your parents and about your husband, and if you have children, would you name them, please?
Yes, I live in Rusk, Texas, and my husband's name is Everett Martin. He's a veterinarian, and we have 3 children, Terry, Everett Martin III we call Bo, and Kathy Jane. And I went to school here through the 8th grade.
All right. Now, do you have grandchildren, Catherine?
Yes, I have 6 grandchildren.
Would you like to name drop your grandchildren so they'll be on our genealogy tape?
Yes, indeed. The eldest is Catherine, and then Rebecca, Joseph, Brian, Conan, and then Cliff, Everett Martin IV,
Good.
and Carissa Martin.
Oh, that sounds like an excellent
I
genealogy.
left one out, my baby, Megan.
Megan. Don't forget about
Megan Trimble.
All right, Megan Trimble. All right, and would you tell us then a little bit about Grand Prairie when you were a young lady, and especially one photograph that we're going to let you show off for us. What year did you come to Grand Prairie, or were you born here in Grand Prairie?
I was born in Kaufman County in the great community of Elmo.
All right.
And we moved here in 25. My birthday was 1922, and Daddy was the railway agent here in Grand Prairie, and we spent many, many hours here at the depot in Grand Prairie here, and I believe he was the last agent at at the Grand Prairie Depot here.
All right.
And this is a picture of us standing. I'm about 6 years old at the time, and we're standing in front of the depot in Wills Point. It was a very,
Grand Prairie.
excuse me, in Grand Prairie. I lived in Wills Point. We moved to Wills Point. We were very unhappy about having to move from Grand Prairie to Wills Point. We considered that at that time in the country.
Oh, I see.
And this was very much the city.
All right. And what year did you move from Grand Prairie, Texas?
We moved from Grand Prairie in 1937.
1937. While you were here in the schools, can you name drop a few of your teachers, maybe?
Oh, help me here, will you?
Was it the Grand Prairie of the 11 grade school?
Mr. L.A. Roberts was the superintendent at that time of the school, and I don't really remember all of my teachers' names at this time.
That's been some time ago.
I was considered the town tomboy, so I was a little scatterbrained, and so you may realize this as I say that I do not remember some of my teachers' names.
Wonderful. All right, why don't we take that, and then we're going to ask Seth maybe to tell us a little bit about himself and his family. Would you do that for us?
I was born here in Grand Prairie.
All right.
December of 1925.
All right.
Across the street from what was then the First Baptist Church.
All right.
And on Church Street, but I've forgotten what corner was. I went to school until 1937. I was in the 5th grade in the school, which was the first elementary school that they built away from the campus where the school auditorium, or where the old school auditorium is, or administration building, I believe it is now, is located. I went to school up through the 4th grade in the building that is now doesn't stand there on that block. I remember that one of my teachers was a Miss Patterson, I believe. I remember that the lady who was the 5th grade teacher, I believe was she had beautiful red hair, but I cannot remember for sure her name. I remember my 3rd grade teacher was a Miss Wagner.
Great.
Other than that, I'm not sure that I remember other teachers. I remember Mr. L.A. Roberts. His son and I played together some. And then I also remember the Dallas school superintendent at that time, Dr. Harris, or Mr. Harris, used to come and be in a service or a community, not community meeting, entire school meeting. And I remember that he used to whistle.
Yes.
For the students. And
Mr. J.P. Harris.
I don't remember his initials.
Joe P. Harris.
But he was, I remember that we were always thrilled when Mr. Harris came to visit in the school, because we always had an assembly. And one of the things that we looked forward to was his whistling and entertaining us with his whistling.
All right, and did you move with the family in 1937 away from Grand Prairie?
I moved away from Grand Prairie in
But
1937.
some way, we'd like to know how you got a Grand Prairie girl to be Mrs. Seth Martin.
Well, she wasn't from Grand Prairie.
All right.
I met her in a First Baptist Church, Dallas. She was born, my wife, Vera Elizabeth Ballou Walton, was born in Arkansas, in Miller County, and she had come to Dallas to work after I had graduated from Baylor University. In 1950, I came to Dallas to work for a time with the Internal Revenue Service, and we met at First Baptist Church in Dallas. And then a short time after that, I had a teaching job in Williamsburg, Kentucky. And I went up there and taught for 2.5 years before I could persuade her, not a year and a half it took me by telephone to persuade her to marry me.
All right. Now, when do you all have any children?
Yes, we have 2 boys.
Would you name them?
Neil Walton and Robert Walton.
All right.
And Robert is married and has 3 children.
Name them.
Tim and Juana and Josh.
All right. And your other son is not married?
Neil is not married.
All right. We're going to get back to you in just a few minutes then. But let's get back to Bill. Bill, we have just neglected you a few minutes as we're pulling together this history of the Waltons. Now, we want you to tell us about you as a young boy in Grand Prairie, Texas, and as you grew up, and as you married, and some of the people that you worked with in Grand Prairie, Texas.
I finished high school here in 1931.
All right.
And
All right. If you
Mr. Hudspeth was the superintendent. Mr. Gentry was the principal.
All right, let's hold up your 6th grade.
This was in the 6th grade.
All right. And I believe that our teacher there was...
Miss Swenson.
All right, all right. Maybe our camera can pick that up. And that's your 6th grade picture. But we also have something very important. We have your graduating class of what?
1931.
1931. And I believe this is you on the far right-hand side of this picture if you're looking toward it.
That's right.
All right. If our camera doesn't distort our directions, they can see you on the front row of the graduating class of 1931.
And the class teacher and sponsor was Miss Reeves. She's deceased now.
All right. That gets you down, and you were very important in the class in that you helped with the senior play. You helped get all of the ads together for the senior play.
This was put together by myself and 1 or 2 others.
All right.
And it shows some of those businesses in here. But on the back cover is the Miller Drug Company.
All right.
Then we have Turner Drug Store,
All right.
Bar and Service Station, and over here is Billy Moore's Cafe, and then we have the Dalworth Company and the Grand Prairie Lumber Company, who I went to work for with Pete Chenault.
All right. That's the Grand Prairie Lumber Company with Pete Chenault.
That's
And
right.
where was that located?
At the corner of 3rd and Main Street. It covered a half a block. Right next door in the center of the block was Lewandowski's blacksmith shop.
Oh, it was. That's wonderful. All right. Now, Bill, after you grew up and graduated from Grand Prairie High School, what did you do then?
I went to Arlington School, junior college, the NTAC, for 2 years.
All right.
Then went to work Pete Chenault. I worked about 6 months. I had a good job. Paid me $9 a week.
$9 a week. That was
But you had
big
to work
bucks.
on Saturday.
On Saturday. Okay.
Then the district manager asked me if my parents cared if I go to West Texas, to a place called Peacock, Texas, out between Aspermont and Spur,
What county is Peacock located in?
Stonewall County.
All right.
I went out there and it's dry, hot, dust storms. I asked about the wind blowing this way today, and they said, no, it may blow back that way tomorrow.
All right. How long did you stay out there, and what did you do in Stonewall County?
I stayed 3 years at Peacock.
All right.
Had to take a cold shower the year round because it didn't have any hot water.
All right. And what did you do out there?
I was a bookkeeper and run sales of windmills, sucker rod, Go Devils, drove an ambulance, helped bury the dead, funeral director. And then I went to Spur, transferred to Spur.
All right. What did you do in Spur, Texas?
I did the bookkeeping for the same company, Tri-County Lumber Company is known out there. Grand Prairie is the Grand Prairie Lumber Company.
All
But
right.
Houston was the main office. I went there in 36 to Spur, met a girl on the skating rink, asked her to marry me,
What was her name?
Francis Morris Walton.
Frances Morris Walton, and you all married, and she lives with you and is only been deceased just a little while.
Died in January of 1977.
All right. Now, but we have you, after you were in Spur, I believe you went into the U.S. Navy, right?
Left Spur, came to Dallas, and joined the Seabees on December after Pearl Harbor was bombed the year before in December. And I shipped to Norfolk, Virginia for boot camp, transferred to California for transfer overseas to Pearl Harbor. I lived at Pearl Harbor for duration of the war. Had 1,000 and some odd colored men and 30 some odd white checkers and storekeepers and galley boys. Fed all these people the day round, 24 hours shifts, loading and unloading the ships, ship merchandise down under, bringing old battered up equipment back for repair.
All right. Now, when did you come back to Grand Prairie, Texas? That's our focal point, is Grand Prairie. Tell us about that.
About 1953,
All right. In 1953, where did you move back to in Grand Prairie?
on 14th Street.
On 14th Street? All right. And you brought your sweet wife back with you? All right. And you all did not have any children, right? What'd you do in Grand Prairie when you came back here, Bill?
Came back and went to work again for the Grand Prairie Lumber Company.
All right.
They sold out. I went to Dallas, went to work for Buell and Company, and then taking early retirement. And got tired of that after my wife died. Went to work for School Patrol.
School patrol. Where did you work as a school patrol?
Corner of Crestbrook and Grenoble at the LBJ school.
All right.
Started work in 79, ended in May of this year. But I'm up at the school at LBJ with the school patrol children, helping them get the dress right, children across the street, and do some other duties there at school.
This is a community service that you do for free for them,
That's
right?
right.
All right. Where do you live now, Bill?
614 Doris Drive
614 Doris
in
Drive
South Grand Prairie.
in South Grand Prairie, across the street from Ernie and Gwen Seymour and their two kids, Tommy and Barry, right?
That's right.
All right. And are they pretty good neighbors?
Tommy's a wonderful neighbor. Ernest, I hollering for help in 83, December of 83, when it was turning cold. I was going to build a fire in the fireplace, and I fell off the ladder in the garage. I couldn't get up. Had to holler for help for nearly an hour before Ernest heard me. Got me, take me to the emergency room, and I spent several days in the hospital, in and out of the physical.
All right. Now, there's something else that I want you to tell me about. You mentioned downtown Grand Prairie, some of the things that as you were growing up that you remembered, and a couple of things you talked about was the Page Variety Store, and that you all used to get your syrup from the Chapman Syrup Mill. Tell us about that. A lot of people in Grand Prairie don't know about the Chapman Syrup Mill.
Abner Chapman had a little service for servicing ribbon cane syrup, molasses, across the street from the Grand Prairie Lumber Company, behind a cafe that was later to be the city hall and city jail part of it there. And he owned it with his boys, owned it, Abner. Was been in syrup business in East Texas. He'd come over to the lumber yard and buy a yard of cheesecloth for a strainer for his syrup. Sold him lots of syrup.
So
Lots of
cheese.
cheesecloths for his syrup.
Oh.
He sold quite a bit of syrup too.
All right. Now, I'm going to let you rest just a minute. I'm going to get back to you in a few minutes, but let's talk with Catherine. Catherine, I believe that while you lived here in Grand Prairie, we've not mentioned the place that the old home place was when your parents lived here. Would you tell us where that was located?
Well, it was 1 block from the school on College Avenue.
It was on College Avenue.
On College Avenue. I believe now it is the area of the City Hall.
Of the City Hall.
Yes.
That's very interesting. All right.
And across the street from us were the Liggets.
The Liggets. All right. And I believe you
And
mentioned...
Mrs. Shepler.
I believe you mentioned something about the Liggets and the Shepler in that area. Was there not a dairy? Would you like to tell us about
Yes, and 1 block further where the Liggets now live, they had a dairy. And as children, we enjoyed, Seth and I, going down to watch them milk the cows and see how everything was done. And I think you rode a horse or a mule sometime, and we just had a wonderful time there. And then as a child, we would come behind our house, of course, was a railroad, and we were just 5 blocks from town, and we would go down and play on the in the cotton yard on the cotton bales, and play on the cotton bales along the side of the railroad.
All right. Now, one of you all mentioned previously that you had school teachers that lived in your home that roomed and boarded there. Would one of y'all like to tell us about that?
You tell about Go ahead.
Maxine,
All right.
Maxine Poulter, and
Bodine.
she's now Mrs. Bodine,
All
Mrs.
right.
Earl Bodine,
Uh-huh.
lived with us in our home, and we were all very fond of her. She was a very special person to us there, and I believe she was romancing at the time. She was single and was romancing and courting, as we say, Earl Bodine at that time, that she lived in our home with us, and
She later married.
whom she later married. That's right. And I do want to mention Mrs. Miller. He was mentioning Miss Wagner and some of the others, but Mrs. Miller was my 2nd grade teacher, and I
Miss
always...
Ruby Miller?
Yes, indeed.
Mrs. Dewey Miller.
Mrs. Dewey Miller was my 2nd grade teacher. I remember coming back on 2 occasions to Grand Prairie, hoping to make Grand Prairie my home again. In 1947, I was teaching in Mesquite, and I brought my tennis team over here to play tennis, and was helping with the pep squad, and I saw Mr. Roberts, and Mr. Roberts said to me, Catherine, I never thought you would grow up to be a lady, because I was such a tomboy. But and then again, in 1950, my husband and I, he's a veterinarian, came here and talked to Mr. L.O. Turner and others in the city about possibly putting in a veterinary hospital. But we realized that Grand Prairie was going to be such a large city. He wanted to have a mixed practice. So we moved to East Texas and Jacksonville, Texas, instead of coming back to Grand Prairie. But my heart has always been in Grand Prairie, and I've longed to return.
Good. That's wonderful. All right. Now, Seth, we need to get back with you just a minute. We'd like to get some of your fond memories of Grand Prairie and maybe the downtown and a spin-off into the dairy. And what did you do as a young man in Grand Prairie?
Well, I remember many varied things, perhaps. I remember on Sunday afternoon, my father would go walking with my sister and I. And I remember that when Commodore Perry, I can't remember his first name now, but I've seen it in the history book since then, was trying to get navigation on the Trinity. We walked down to the Trinity River Bridge and heard Commodore Perry speak about his planned trip all the way by river to Chicago, trying to get navigation on the Trinity River. And then I remember also that we were here. My mother and older sister and I were here on December 7th, 1941, when we heard about Pearl Harbor. And I can show somebody the exact spot on the school ground almost where we were when we first heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor. Well, we really appreciate, even though y'all have moved away and Marshall and Jacksonville seem so far removed from us, you've brought us back some wonderful memories of Grand Prairie. But in the last few minutes, let's get back to Bill. Bill, you're such a focal point for us here in Grand Prairie, having been with us all of these years. Would you like to tell a little bit about Grand Prairie, what it's meant to you to know all of the people that you have met, and as you grew up as a young man, and some of the people that really influenced your life?
Well, of course, there's several people influenced my life.
Okay.
I worked as a soda clerk for Hancock Drug, for Harry Turner Drug, and then he was the mayor. I had one officer, Prairie Nash, and they influenced me quite a bit. Ira Couch had a scout patrol. He was quite a bit of influence on me. And he went on the Eagle Scouts.
All right, let's show, while we're talking about Ira and this picture of Scouts that was taken at the old archway in the First Methodist Church of Grand Prairie, Texas. Can you identify these people, and maybe our camera can pick that up for us?
This is Wesley B. Young, Jr., that's myself, and J.C. Swadlick, Jr. He still lives here. Used to be fire chief here in Marshall.
All right. Did you attend the First Methodist Church or just belong to that scout troop that met
Just
you?
belonged to the scout troop. I belonged, all of our family attended the First Baptist Church.
The First Baptist.
On January the 7th, I forget the date. Brother Hargo was our home. My mother cooked me a birthday dinner. Called up there and said the church was in fire. And they had a big fire that day.
Did it burn the church to the ground?
All they had there then for several years was a basement.
Just the basement. Well, we have about 1/2 minute to finish up our history tape, they tell me. Is there anything that you would lastly like to say about being a part of Grand Prairie over all of these years?
Well, on these years, and there's a lot of freight trains, and there's 2 engines run together across from, now, First Republic Bank. Used to be Curtis Wright Airport across from Spike's Boom Factory. That's where the engine run together. There's Tommy Evans, worked with my dad in the railroad. In front of those 2 engines, they used to run together.
Lots of excitement has happened in Grand Prairie, Texas, hasn't it?
Well, there was a lot of excitement that day.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all very much for making our history more meaningful by bringing back the Waltons to Grand Prairie that have left us and joined you, Bill, here over these holidays. And we want to thank you all for being with us as part of our history show.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do. And I want to shake it.